I'm sorry we ain't got a live stream this week, but just run through a few things. And in 2009, I think it was most prolific time that I'd ever come across researching UFO activity, and we were in that year particularly. We were on East Yorkshire Wolds, myself and Steve Ashbridge, occasionally Andy Ramsden towards the latter end of it. There were UFO reports from farmers, from fishermen, out at sea off Bempton, Bridlington, Wilsthorpe. Every couple of weeks there was stuff being reported. Local papers were reporting it as well. That's what were interesting. And Scarborough Evening News, so it were up and down coast, but I don't think we capitalised on a lot of it really as much as we should have done, because as I say, we were on the Wolds. It had been prolific on there. But that was the start of the UFO activity for us off the coast. I didn't really get into it until I wrote the first book in 2014, and I started researching for that. And newspaper kindly put an article in for me saying, this guy's going to have a go at writing a book, and anybody with unusual stories, just, can you contact him? I left a phone number and an email address. And an old couple contacted me from Wilsthorpe. They'd lived there, I think they say, well over 30 years. They said that they'd seen, basically in their words, spaceships over at sea at Wilsthorpe, which sounded absolutely, well, fantastic. I couldn't believe it. And I went to see these people, and they told me this literally amazing story. Like I said, everything packed around it. We'd got all these UFO accounts leading right up to September. I think it was 2009 that it happened, even to the point where I put Freedom of Information request in on strength of what they'd told me about the military arriving on the beach after they'd seen this circle of what they described as boomerang-shaped spacecraft over at sea. Their words, not mine. I don't use the word spacecraft, but they're talking about it, not me. Basically, the date, I think it was September the 15th, 2009, the main witness, so there were two of them, but the main witness said her husband went to bed about 11 o'clock, left her to check everything was locked up and everything. She said, and she went to they've got like a little porch at back of these houses. Well, the flats, let me correct myself, there's 16 flats at Wilsthorpe that were built in 1935, I think, and they're only things that just stand on front at North Sea, and there's no else around. There's a farm at back of them. They're in blocks of 4, and there's a communal light for the back. Everybody's got an access to a switch, so that if you go downstairs or from your flat or you go out back, you can turn the light on, but it's really your responsibility to turn it off. She said, and there's a light. She said, and I thought, oh, next door's left it on. So I went to turn it off. It's off. I thought, that's weird. She couldn't understand it. She said, and went back into the living room. She said, and as she stepped through a porch, and these porches are only about 6 foot by 4 foot, she said a voice said to her, go back and have another look. And that sort of surprised us. Well, it would anybody, wouldn't it? So she goes and she looks out across the bay over the sea. She says, and that's when she saw him. She says, oh my God, she said, there were just a huge circle of these things over at sea, lighting the sea up. She said she shouted her husband. He come running through. He's uttering swear words. He can't believe what he's actually seen. None of them could. The lady or him. She said, and he thought it just looked like a giant Christmas tree. His first sort of way of describing it over at sea. She said, and she said there were probably 30 of these things, all in a circle, and she didn't count them. She said, and the sea below them were like a boiling pan of water, and it were all lit up. She said there was sort of lightning and electricity going into the sea. She said it was just incredible. He'd seen enough after a few minutes. He was terrified. She said, well, I've never seen out like it in my life. I was going to stay and watch it. And he went to bed. His exact words to me were, I put pillow over my head and I didn't want to move till morning. I was frightened. And she'd got opposite. It just affected her differently. So I did ask her if she thought about taking a photograph, and she said no. She already realised that something were aware of her, but she didn't want to bring any more attention to herself with this voice that she'd heard. Said she watched them, and then at about 11:30, 2 of them moved away at an angle and then just disappeared. She said, and circle closed, and this continued to happen until just before or just after 12 o'clock. I ain't got exact time. and there's just two over at sea, and they went straight up. And that were her story. But there's a massive build-up to it of UFO-related sort of events throughout 2009, all along the coast and on the wolds. And I think, cause just for this short, I don't know, 5 to 10 minute slot that we've just put in because they're into live stream, I think we could devote a full live stream for it in next week, 2 weeks, and maybe add some accounts that sort of pack around it, because I think Woolsthorpe incident stands alone as an absolutely brilliant UFO related incident. Just to throw that little bit in as well, I did put a freedom of information request in, and they gave me the dates, the old lady gave me the dates, or the approximate dates, and what do you know? On the, I think I put the request in asking for the dates of the 15th to the 18th of September 2009. There was a military exercise taking place on the beach during that time period. Obviously they said any gunshots that were heard, any explosions that were heard were all simulated. Well, nobody reported any explosions, nobody reported any gunshots. So I don't know why they threw that bit in. And now let's hold our hands up, it could have been a military exercise. But you know, I mean, we can't categorically state that it weren't. But we've also got the bait diggers who were on the beach a few days before, and they claimed that they'd seen a black triangle entering sea off Woolsthorpe. The night that this all allegedly happened, they were on the beach again. They got marched off the beach by military personnel. So, you know, military testing strange sort of new technology, whether a genuine UFO event. If we're to listen to Old Couple, and we're talking about up to 30 objects boomerang shaped over at sea, it's a real UFO event. And then if we just pack all these other incidents around it leading up to it, 2009 on East Yorkshire coast and onto the Wolds, it were an incredible time. So we'll probably do a live stream next 1 to 2 weeks and fill you in on all rest of the information that packs around it.